For this last mini lesson, we are going to talk about how to approach color for the last two columns on your optical illusion. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to first spend some time with your color wheel, which you have in your color theory packet, and you're going to need to establish an analogous color scheme for your first column and a triad for the second column, or vice versa, but an analogous color scheme and a triad. Okay, I've gone ahead up here, and when I established it, I wrote down the colors that I'm going to use. It'll be smart for you to go back to your color packet. Okay, if you need a refresher on what your color schemes are, you can refer to the packet. If you have any questions, you can ask me. But I've got the colors established, so I'm going to use violets, oranges, and red oranges. Okay. Now, what does that mean? That means that each one of these rings needs to appear as if it is one of those colors. So, for instance, if you look at this student sample right here, okay, this column right here is the analogous color set that I wrote down. All right. So we have our red-violet. We have our violet, we have our red, orange, orange. Okay, it doesn't have to be in that color order, and it doesn't even have to be this color set, but this person did a really good job at establishing the analogous one. The triad, she kind of didn't know that we had to do a triad for this one. It was still technique-wise done really, really well, but this is a very good example of how to approach the analogous column. Again, following that same formula where it's darker on the sides and lighter in the middle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give that a go on our sample here. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to go ahead and start with my violet pencil. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just start with this ring. I'm going to put down my first light layer of colored pencil. Now, we haven't talked an awful lot about technique yet, but just like with your graphite, you want to lay down your colored pencils in very, very light layers. I also went ahead and kind of pulled out all of the pencils that I'm going to need for this project. Okay, so I've got all the colors right there, so I don't have to dig for them. I'm going to go ahead and start by bringing out this purple very, very lightly. Now, if you remember when we were talking about the monochromatic colors on your color packet, one of the things I talked to you about is how when you're creating a tint of a color, which is essentially what we're doing here in the middle of the column, that we don't want to use the paper to create that lighter color. We want to use white to do that. So we're going to use this white colored pencil. I'm going to come in here and really, really lighten that up a little bit. It's also going to blend your colors together. Okay, color pencil is not erasable. Okay, I've seen some students try and it ends up being quite a mess, but you're not supposed to erase your colored pencil, so always start off very, very light. Okay, now you have this other color in your pencil pack. It's the blue violet, and when you look at these two colors together, not only is your blue violet a little bit darker than your violet, it's also a cooler color. It leans a little bit more towards the blue side of your color wheel. So with that cooler color, instead of darkening your edges up with black, which is what a lot of people tend to do, I want you to experiment with darkening this side of the ring with your darker, cooler color instead. A couple reasons. The darker is going to make this ring appear as if it's going further back into space, thus helping with the illusion. Also, it's a cooler color, and cooler colors recede. Remember that? They go back in space, so it's going to help with making that go back in space. Now, once I have that blue violet on there, I can then come in and layer with my black on top of that. Now, colored pencils are transparent. So once you have that layer of that blue violet underneath there and you start layering some of that black on top, it will just darken up those other two layers underneath. So you've got the violet underneath, the blue violet, and now a little bit of the black. Okay? Now I've kind of established some value here, dark to light to dark again. I'm going to come back in because the other thing that I was talking about is making sure that your color pencil surface is developed. So in other words, I don't want to see too much of the white of the paper. So come back in there and layer over this and really develop that surface. You have to turn your paper. You can turn your paper. I'm trying to keep it straight for the video, but I usually have my paper turned in all sorts of directions here. And remember, it's always easier to make something a little bit darker than it is to make it lighter. I'm going to go back with my white. Blend that up. Okay, and there's my violet ring. Okay, now I'm going to go on to my red violet. So let's go see here. So this is going to be a little bit more complicated because I need to mix these two colors, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my red. It's the lighter of the two colors. And start with a very nice light layer. And that red out here. Okay, remembering to keep this light area light. And do the same on this side of my ring. Now there's more than one way to solve these little color problems. And I want you to kind of think them through. Okay, I would like for each one of these rings to have more than just the color of the ring, white and black. So think about what other colors you can use to mix. Be creative with this. This is the part where everybody's going to approach their color different. The formula is darker on the edges, lighter in the middle. Okay, so it's kind of my red violet. I'm going to come back in here and make it a little bit redder. Go back in with my white, because even these areas that are white need to have colored pencil to it, need to be nice and developed. Okay, now my red violet, if I have those two pencils out, the darker of the two is the violet. So I'm going to go ahead and use that to darken up the edges here. Okay, I can even bring that blue violet back in just over here on the edges, and you can see those edges start to slip back into space. Back in with the black, make it even darker, make it a shade of itself. Now you've got your red violet ring here. Okay, now we're going to move on to, let's go to the orange here. All right, so I'm going to pull out the orange, the yellow, the white, and I'm going to keep my color pencils sharpened here. It's important to keep those sharp. My yellow, my orange. Might pull in a little bit of my red. Now in this case I'm going to need my edges to be darker, so I might even use my blue or my blue violet for my dark edges. Okay, so I'm going to kind of pull those off to the side here, and I'm going to start with my base color. So if I want this to be orange, I'm going to go ahead and start by putting down my orange first, light layer so that I can manipulate the surface. Down here as well. Kind of leaving that middle there. Might even come in here with my yellow, kind of yellow up that orange a little bit, warm it up. Make sure that that highlight is nice and established. I'm going to come in with my red because my red might be the darker of the two for the orange, and so that's going to start to get this back into space. Now red is also a very attractive color, so I'm going to have to knock it down a little bit with a darker value. We also don't want it to overpower the ring. We still want this ring to look like it's an orange ring. So I'm going to go back over that, the orange, kind of reminding all of these colors, hey, this is supposed to be an orange ring. It's going to help kind of blend all of those values of color together. Okay. I'm going to take that blue violet because it's the darker, one of those darker colors, but yet not black. It's also opposite on the color wheel of orange, so it's going to kind of neutralize some of those tones underneath there and allow the sides of this ring to look like it's going back into space. Okay. All right, so I hope that gave you some insight on how to move forward with your colors. Just have some fun with these. If you are struggling, let me know. Definitely make sure that one of your columns is analogous, the other one a triad. Remember that your analogous colors are 3 or more colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, a triad is any group of 3 that are either equidistant from each other on the color wheel, or even a split triad, which is you choose a mother color and it's the other 2 colors on either side of its complement. All of that information can be found in your color theory packet. Good luck, have some fun, and I look forward to seeing what you do.